What's going on, peoples? Big Lou tapping on in. Y'all already know what it do with Big Lou. NFZR2. Baby, baby. And feel me? Nah, but what's going on, everybody? It's still here in Cali. It's still pretty early. Well, evening, 5 o'clock p.m. Most of you guys are already probably ate dinner on the East Coast, Canada. Good in Hollywood, but I will. You guys will probably come back around and watch this video when you got time, or at least I hope, right? Yeah. And anyways, what's going on, fans? Sports fan JV, New Age Plug. What's going on, man? Appreciate you guys tapping in. New Age Plug has been hard, man. Even just chilling has been hard to catch everybody. Excuse me, everybody's videos, man. I changed job position and stuff, and so my hours changed, and it's just been hard to catch up with everybody. But anyways, I got 559 in the building. So where you from? Fresno, Tulare County, or Kings County, or Madera? Madera is what? Yeah, Madera County. So you got what? Madera County, Fresno County, Kings County, excuse me, and Tulare County. Let's go. So we got Scotland in the house. We got East LA in the house. We got 559 in the house, and New Age Plug. I'm not sure where you're from exactly, but I think East Coast somewhere. So yeah, I got two lives back to back. This one is I started last week doing I moved to Bakers a few years ago. I was right in the heart of the 559 though. Okay, so when you say right in the heart, I'm taking that as either Fresno or Tulare. Tommy 2274, driving but listening. Connecticut in the house. That's what I'm talking about. We got a good little crew of folks in here right now from all over the United States and Scotland. That's right. That's what's up. So as I sometime last week I incorporated in my videos, or my content, I should say. Giving some thanks to some real American heroes who really have really got some hardware. What I mean by hardware is Purple Heart and such that have real valor. You feel me? I did a video on a Mexican American, Master Sergeant Benavidez out of Texas. I did one also on Sergeant First Class Otero Barreto, aka Puerto Rican Rambo, aka Sergeant Rock, and then I also put the thumbnail of Sergeant First Class Cartagena on there as well. So this one, Fresno, yep, Fresno is no joke. Fresno is a 500,000 people city right there. So this one is going to be on the Tuskegee, I don't even know how to pronounce it right, Tuskegee Airmen. And if y'all don't know, these guys were brothers, right? Afro-Americans that were fighter pilots back in World War II. And they, yeah, exactly. Salute to all the real American heroes. Yes, sir. So these guys were fighter pilots back in World War II. And these guys were so good at what they did, they were highly recommended. They came highly recommended, but they were highly requested by different battalions and regiments that were, on the ground there in different areas, North Africa, wherever they were at the time, Germany, France, wherever. And it wasn't even known that these guys were Afro-Americans. You know what I mean? Tuskegee. Okay, there you go. So I just want to give a little background. They were a group of primarily African-American fighter pilots, military pilots, and bombers, airmen who fought in World War II. We already covered that. They formed the 332nd Fighter Group and the 477th Bombardment Group, medium of the U.S. Army Air Forces. The name also applies to the navigators bombarders, and mechanics, instructors, crew chiefs, nurses, cooks, and other support personnel. Tuskegee Airmen received praise for their excellent combat record earned while protecting American bombers from enemy fighters. The group was awarded 3 Distinguished Unit citations. Okay, they got the Spitfire, the emblems of wings. They were active from 1940 to 1948. Like I already mentioned, they were Air Force, Army Air Force. They trained for aerial combat. Graduates assigned to the 332nd Fighter Group, 99th Fighter Squadron, 100th Fighter Squadron, 301st Fighter Squadron, 302nd Fighter Squadron, 477th Medium Bombardment Group, 616th Bombardment Squadron, 617th Bombardment Squadron, 618th Bombardment Squadron, 619th Bombardment Squadron. Nicknames: Red Tail Angels, Models, Fire. And they're, like I mentioned, World War II. Let's see what we got here so far. Fresno Bulldogs, watch stuff on them. Fresno Bulldogs, watch stuff on them. You talking about from the college, or you talking about the gang from the street? I think you're talking about the gang in the street. So all black military pilots who trained in the U.S. trained at the Gurrell Field, Kennedy Field, Moulton Field, Shorter Field, and Tuskegee Army Airfields. They were educated at the Tuskegee Institute, now the Tuskegee University. I know I'm not saying that right. I apologize. Located near Tuskegee, Alabama. Of the 922 pilots, 5 were Haitian from the Haitian Air Force. 1 pilot was from Trinidad. It also included his Latino born in the Dominican Republic. The 99th Pursuant Squadron, later the 99th Fighter Squadron, was the first black flying squadron and the first to deploy overseas to North Africa in April of '43, later to Sicily and other parts of Italy. The 332nd Fighter Group, which originally included the 101st and 102nd Fighter Squadrons, was the first black flying group. It deployed to Italy in early 1944. Although the 477 Bombardment Group trained with North American B-25 Mitchell bombers, they never served in combat. In June of '44, the 332nd Fighter Group began flying heavy bomber escort missions, and in July of '44, with the addition of the 99th Fighter Squadron, it had 4 fighter squadrons. The 99th Fighter Squadron was initially equipped with Curtiss P-40 Warhawk fighter bomber aircraft. 332nd Fighter Group and its 100, 301st, 302nd Fighter Squadrons were equipped for initial combat missions with Bell P-39 era Cobras, March of '44. Later, Republic P-47 Thunderbolts, June and July of '44. And finally, with aircraft which they became most commonly associated, the North American P-51 Mustang, when the pilots of the 332nd Fighter Group painted the tails of their P-47s red, the nickname Red Tails was coined. The red markings that distinguished the Tuskegee Airmen included red bands on the noses of the P-51s, as well as a red impingement pennage. The P-51B, C, D Mustangs flew with similar color schemes, with red propeller, spinners, yellow wings, bands, and all red tail surfaces. What we got going on here so far? Let's check this chat. Tim Egan. Habib's in the house. Okay, let's see what you guys are saying. Damn, they put in some work. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. These guys were no joke, man. These are real American heroes, man. When I say that, I don't say that lightly. You feel me? So where we at? Okay. The Tuskegee Airmen were the first African-American military aviators in the U.S. Armed Forces. During World War II, Black Americans in many U.S. states were still subject to the Jim Crow laws, and the American military was racially segregated, as was much of the federal government. The Tuskegee Airmen were subject to discrimination both within and outside the Army. That's why I was saying earlier, guys, that these guys were being requested before people knew that they were Afro-Americans. They were being requested because that's how badass these guys were. These guys took care of business, and the bombers felt safe with these guys having their backs. You know what I mean? Before the Tuskegee Airmen, no African American had been a military pilot. 1917, Afro-American men had tried to become aerial observers but were rejected. Afro-American Eugene Bullard served in the French Air Service during World War I because he was not allowed to serve in an American unit. Instead, Bullard returned to infantry duty with the French. The racially motivated rejections of World War I, Afro-Americans recruits sparked more than 2 days of advocacy by the Afro-Americans who wished to enlist and train as military aviators. The effort was led by such prominent civil rights leaders as Walter White of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, labor union leader A. Philip Randolph, and Judge William H. Hastie. Finally, on April 3rd, 1939, Appropriations Bill Public Law 18 was passed by Congress, containing an amendment by Senator Harry Swartz, designating funds for training Afro-American pilots. The War Department managed to put the money into funds of civilian flight schools willing to train blacks. War Department tradition policy mandated the segregation of Afro-Americans to separate military units staffed by white officers, as had been done previously with the 9th Cavalry, 10th Cavalry, 24th Infantry Regiment, and 25th Infantry Regiment. When the appropriations of funds for aviation training created opportunities for pilot cadets, their numbers diminished the rosters of older units. In 1941, the War Department and the Army Air Corps, under pressure 3 months before its transformation into the USAAF, constituted the first all-black fighter unit, the 99th Pursuit Squadron. Because of the restrictive nature of selection policies, the situation did not seem promising for Afro-Americans. Since in 1940, the U.S. Census Bureau reported there were only 124 Afro-American pilots in the nation. Policies failed dramatically when the Air Corps received an abundance of applications for men who qualified. Even under the restrictive requirements, many of the applicants had already participated in the civilian pilot training program unveiled in late December of 1938. CPTP. Tuskegee University had participated since 1939. Wow. What's Jerry say right here? Lou, my grandfather fought in World War II and was a prisoner. Americans caught him. So he was for the Italy, right? But watch the film of Black Americans that were bombers and read up on it, bro. Amazing. Yep. Yep. Press that like button, like Habib just said. Carlo, hermano, you want to come on? Let me know if anybody wants to come on. Carlos, you want to come on? Let's see, where am I at? U.S. Army Air Corps had established the Psychological Research Unit 1 at Maxwell Army Airfield, Montgomery, Alabama. The other units around the country for aviation cadet training, which included the identification, selection, education, and training of pilots, navigators, and bombarders. Psychologists employed in these research studies and training programs used some of the first standardized tests to quantify IQ. The Air Corps determined that the existing programs would be used for all units, including all black units at Tuskegee. This effort continued with the selection and training of the Tuskegee Airmen. The War Department set up a system to accept only those with a level of flight experience or higher education, which ensured that only the most intelligent Afro-American applicants were available to join. Airman Coleman Young, later the first Afro-American mayor of Detroit, told journalist Studs Terkel about the process. This is what Mayor Coleman Young said. They made the standards so high, we actually became an elite group. That's right. We were screened and super screened. We were unquestionably the brightest and most physically fit young blacks in the country. We were super better because of the irrational laws of Jim Crow. You can't bring that many intelligent young people together and train them as fighting men and expecting them to simply roll over when you try to fuck them over, right? Laughs. First Lady's Flight. The budding flight program at Tuskegee received a publicity boost when First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt inspected it on March 29, 41, and flew with Afro-American Chief Civilian Instructor C. Alfred Chief Anderson, who had been flying since 1929 and was responsible for training thousands of rookie pilots, took his prestigious passenger on a half-hour flight in a Piper J3 Cub. After landing, she cheerfully announced, "Well, you can fly, all right." Over the First Lady's flight had such an impact, it is often mistakenly cited as the start of the CPTP at Tuskegee, even though the program was already 5 months old. Eleanor Roosevelt used her position as a trustee of the Julius Rosenwald Fund to arrange a loan of $175,000 to help finance the building of Moulton Field. So here we go. Here we got on March 22nd, 1941, the 99th Pursuit Squadron was activated without pilots at Chanute Field in Ranthal, Illinois. I don't know what Carlos said. You say you want to come on, Carlos? I don't know. Let me see. Let me check. Italiano 559. I send mine. Let me catch up on these comments. James for life. Okay. Okay, here we go. A cadre of 14 black non-commissioned officers from the 24th and 25th Infantry Regiments were sent to Chanute Field to help the administration and supervision of the trainees. A white officer, Army Captain Harold Maddox, was assigned as the first commander of the 99th Fighter Squadron. A group of 271 enlisted men began training in aircraft group support trades at Chanute Field in March of 41 until they were transferred to bases in Alabama in July of 41. The skills being taught were so technical that setting up segregated classes was deemed impossible. This small number of enlisted men became the core of other black squadrons forming at Tuskegee Fields in Alabama. While the enlisted men were in training, 5 black Utes, not youths, but Utes, were admitted to the Officers Training School, OTS, at Chanute Field as aviation cadets. Specifically, Elmer D. Jones, Dudley Stevenson, and James Johnson of Washington, D.C., Nelson Brooks of Illinois, and William R. Thomas of Pittsburgh successfully completed OTS and were commissioned as First Black Army Air Corps officers. Wow, that was a hell of an accomplishment. In June of 41, the 99th Squadron, the 99th Pursuit Squadron was transferred to Tuskegee, Alabama, and remained the only black flying unit in the country, but did not yet have pilots. The famous airmen were actually trained at 5 airfields surrounding Tuskegee University, formerly Tuskegee Institute. Durrell, Kennedy, Moulton, Shorter, and Tuskegee Army airfields. The flying unit consisted of 47 officers and 429 enlisted men and was backed by an entire service army. On July 19, 1941, 13 individuals made up the first class of aviation cadets, 42C, when they entered pre-flight training at Tuskegee Institute after primary training at Moulton Field, where they were moved to nearby Tuskegee Army Airfield, about 10 miles to the west, for conversation training onto operational types. So, let's see. Army Field became the only Army installation performing 3 phases of pilot training: basic, advanced, and transition at a single location. Initial planning called for 500 personnel and residents at a time. By mid-1942, over 6 times that many were stationed at Tuskegee, even though only 2 squadrons were training there. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Afro-American contractor McKissack Corporation was in charge of the contract at the Army training fields, Maxwell Field, excuse me. The company's 2,000 workmen, the Alabama Works Progress Administration, and the U.S. Army built the airfield in only 6 months. The construction was budgeted at $1.6 million. The airmen were placed under the command of Captain Benjamin O. Davis Jr., one of only 2 black line officers then serving. During training, Tuskegee Army Airfield was commanded first by Major James Ellison. Ellison made great progress in organizing the construction of the facilities needed for the military program at Tuskegee. However, he was transferred on January 12, 1942, because of his insistence that his Afro-American sentries and military police had police authority over local Caucasian civilians. His successor, Colonel Frederick Von Kimball, then oversaw operations at Tuskegee Airfield. Contrary to new Army regulations, Kimball maintained segregation on the field in difference to local customs in the state of Alabama, a policy that was resented by the airmen. Later that year, the Air Corps replaced Kimball. His replacement had been the director of training at Tuskegee Army Airfield, Major Noel Parrish. Counter to the prevalent racism of the day, Parrish was fair and open-minded and petitioned Washington to allow the Tuskegee Airmen to serve in combat. The strict racial segregation in the U.S. Army gave way in the face of requirements for complex training and technical vocations. Typical of the process was the development of separate Afro-American flight surgeons to support the operation and training of the Tuskegee Airmen. Before the development of this unit, no U.S. Army flight surgeons had been black. Oops. Okay. Training of Afro-American men as aviation medical examiners was conducted. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that. I got food delivered. Where am I at? So, training of Afro-American men as aviation medical examiners was conducted through correspondence courses. Until 43, when 2 black physicians were admitted to the U.S. Army School of Aviation Medicine at Randolph Field, Texas. This was one of the earliest racially integrated courses in the U.S. Army. 17 flight surgeons served with the Tuskegee Airmen from 41 to 49. At that time, the typical tour of duty for a U.S. Army flight surgeon was 4 years. 6 of these physicians lived under field conditions during operations in North Africa, Sicily, and other parts of Italy. Chief flight surgeon to Tuskegee Airmen was Vance Marchbanks, Jr., MD, a childhood friend of Benjamin Davis. Okay. Trained officers were also left idle as planned to shift Afro-American officers into command slots stalled. White officers not only continued to hold command, but were joined by additional white officers assigned to the post. One rationale behind the non-assignment of trained African-American officers was stated by commanding officer of the Army Air Force General Henry. Negro pilots cannot be used in our present Air Corps units since this would insult in Negro officers serving over white enlisted men, creating an impossible social situation. Combat assignment. Here we go. 8 Tuskegee Airmen in front of a excuse me, I messed up. The 99th was finally considered ready for combat duty. April of 43. It shipped out of Tuskegee on April 2nd, bound for North Africa, where it would join the 33rd Fighter Group and its commander, Colonel William Momeyer. Given little guidance from battle-experienced pilots, the 99th's first combat mission was to attack the small, strategic volcanic island of Panterelia, codenamed Operation Corkscrew, in the Mediterranean Sea to clear the sea lanes for the Allied invasion of Sicily in July of 43. The air assault on the island began May 30th, 43. The 99th flew its first combat mission on June 2nd. The surrender of garrison of the 11,121 Italians and 78 Germans due to air attack was the first of its kind. The 99th then moved on to Sicily and received a Distinguished Unit Citation, DUC, for its performance in combat. By the end of February of 44, the all-black 332nd Fighter Group had been sent overseas with 3 fighter squadrons, the 100, the 301, and the 302. Under the command of Colonel Davis, the squadrons were moved to mainland Italy, where the 99th Fighter Squadron, assigned to the group on May 1st, 44, joined them on June 6th at Ramitelli Airfield, 9 kilometers southeast of the small city of Campo Marino on the Adriatic coast. From Ramitelli, the 32nd Fighter Group escorted 15th Air Force heavy strategic bombing raids into Czechoslovakia, Austria, Hungary, Poland, and Germany. Flying escort for heavy bombers, the 332nd earned an impressive combat record. The Allies called these airmen Red Tails or Red Tail Angel because of this distinctive crimson unit identification marking predominantly applied on the tail section of the unit's aircraft. The B-25 bomb group, the 477 bombardment group, was formed in the U.S. but was not able to complete its training in time to see action. The 99th Fighter Squadron, after its return to the U.S., became part of the 477th, redesignated the 477th Composite Group. The only black units that saw combat during the war were the 99th Pursuit Squadron and the 332nd Fighter Group. The dive bombing and strafing missions under Lieutenant Colonel Benjamin O. Davis Jr. were considered to be highly successful. In May of 42, the 99th Pursuit Squadron was renamed the 99th Fighter Squadron. It earned 3 Distinguished Unit Citations, DUC, during World War II. The DUCs were operations over Sicily from May 30th to June 11th of 43. Monastery Hill near Casino from May 12th to the 14th of 44, and for successfully fighting off German jet aircraft on March 24, 1945. The mission was the longest bomber escort mission of the 15th Air Force throughout the war. The 332nd flew missions in Sicily, Anzio, Normandy, the Rhineland, and the Po Valley, and Rome, Arno, and others. Pilots of the 99th once set a record for destroying 5 enemy aircraft in under 4 minutes. Wow, imagine that. That's 4 minutes. What we got here? Jerry, my dad was Army Air Corps. It was in Austria and 43 Americans were restricted to base at one point. Dad had Aus Army buddies who tried to sneak him off base with an Aussie uniform. He got caught. Wow. That's some history right there. Uh-oh. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for you guys sharing. Tim and Jerry, excuse me. Okay, where am I at? The Tuskegee Airmen shot down 3 German jets in a single day. On March 24, 1945, 43 P-51 Mustangs led by Colonel Benjamin O. Davis escorted B-17 bombers over 1,600 miles into Germany and back. The bombers target a massive Daimler-Benz tank factory in Berlin was heavily defended by Luftwaffe aircraft, including a propeller-driven FW-190s, a ME-163 Comet, rocket-powered fighters, and 25 of the much more formidable ME-262s. History's first operational jet fighter. Pilots Charles Brantley, Earl Lane, and Roscoe Brown all shot down German jets over Berlin that day. For the mission, the 332nd Fighter Group earned a Distinguished Unit Citation. Pilots of the 332nd Fighter Group earned 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses. Their missions took them over Italy and enemy-occupied parts of Central and Southern Europe. Their operational aircraft were in succession: Curtiss P-40, Warhawk, Bell P-39, Airacobra, Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, and North American P-51 Mustang fighter aircraft. Tuskegee Airmen bomber units formation, with Afro-American fighter pilots being trained successfully. The Army Air Force now came under political pressure from the NAWCP and other civil rights organizations to organize a bomber unit. There could be no defensible argument that the quota of the 100 Afro-American pilots in training at 100 Afro-American pilots in training at one time, or 200 per year out of a total of 60,000 American aviation cadets in annual training, represent the service potential of 13 million Afro-Americans. On May 13, 1943, the 666th Bombardment Squadron was established as the initial subordinate squadron of the 447th Bombardment Group. An all-white group, the squadron was activated July 1st, 1943, only to be inactivated on August 15, 43. By September 43, the number of washed-out cadets on base had surged to 286, with few of them working. In January of 44, the 447th Bombardment Group was reactivated, an all-black group. At the time, the usual training cycle for a bombardment group took 3 to 4 months. The 447th would eventually contain 4 medium bomber squadrons slated to comprise 1,200 officers and enlisted men. The unit would operate 60 North American B-25 Mitchell bombers. The 447th would go on to encompass 3 more bomber squadrons, the 617th, the 618th, and the 619th Bombardment Squadron. The 447th was anticipated to be ready for action in November of 44. What you guys talking about? I think you guys are still talking amongst each other. Let's see. I'm way behind in the comments. Black Hat Music. Salute, sir. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, the home field for the 477th was Selfridge Field, located outside Detroit. Forays to Oscoda Army Air Force Airfield in Oscoda, Michigan. However, other bases would be used for various types of training courses. Twin engine pilot training began at Tuskegee, while the transition to full engine pilot training was at Mather Field, California. Some good crews trained at Mather before rotating to Inglewood. Gunners learned to shoot at Edgeland Field, Florida. Navigators learned their trades at Hondo Army Field, and Midland Airfield, Texas, or at Roswell, New Mexico. Training of the Afro-Americans crewmen also took place at Sioux Falls, South Dakota, Lincoln, Nebraska, and Scottsfield, Belleville, Illinois. Once trained, the air and ground crews would be spliced into a working unit at Selfridge. The group combat difficulties. The new group's first commanding officer was Colonel Robert Selway, who had also commanded the 332nd Fighter Group, like it deployed for combat overseas. Like his ranking officers, Major General Frank Frank O'Driscoll Hunter from Georgia. Selway was a racial segregist. Hunter was blunt about it, saying such things as racial friction will occur if colored and white pilots are trained together. He backed Selway's violations of Army Regulations 210/10, which forbid segregation of air-based facilities. They segregated base facilities so thoroughly that they even drew a line in the base theater and ordered separate seating by race. When the audience sat in the random patterns as part of Operation Checkerboard, the movie was halted to make men return to segregated seating. Afro-American officers petitioned Base Commanding Officer William Boyd for access to the only officers' club on the base. Lieutenant Milton Henry entered the club and personally demanded his club rights. He was also court-martialed for this. Subsequently, Colonel Boyd denied club rights to Afro-Americans, although General Hunter stepped in and promised a separate but equal club would be built for black airmen. 477 was transferred to Godman Field, Kentucky, before the club was built. They had spent 5 months at Selfridge, but found themselves on a base a fraction of Selfridge size, with no air-to-ground gunnery range and deteriorating runways. There were too short for B-25 landings. Colonel Selway took on the second role of the commanding officer at Godman Field. In that capacity, he ceded Godman's Field Officers Club to Afro-American airmen. Caucasian officers used the whites-only club at nearby Fort Knox, much to the pleasure of the Afro-American officers. Okay, let's get back to some of the stuff they did. So let's talk about some of their war accomplishments. Let's see. They still do gunner training at Edgerton. They do, huh? So war accomplishments in all, 992 pilots were trained in Tuskegee from 1941 to 1946. 355 were deployed overseas, and 84 lost their lives. Total included 68 pilots killed in action or accidents, 12 killed in training and non-combat missions, 32 captured as prisoners of war. The Tuskegee Airmen were credited by higher commands with the following accomplishments: 1,578 combat missions, 1,267 for the 12th Air Force, 311 for the 15th Air Force, 179 bomber escort missions with a good record of protection, losing bombers on only 7 missions and a total of only 27, compared to an average of 46 among other 15th Air Force B-51 groups. Wow, you're talking what, 40% better? 112 enemy aircraft destroyed in the air, another 150 on the ground, and 148 damaged. This included 3 Messerschmitt MEs 262 jet fighters shot down, 900 rail cars, trucks, and other motor vehicles destroyed, 1 torpedo boat put out on action. TA-22 was an Italian World War I era warship, Giuseppe Missouri, that had been seized by the Germans and put into service. It was attacked on June 25th, 1944, and damaged so severely she was never repaired. She was decommissioned on November 8, 1944, and finally scuttled on February 5th, 1945. 40 boats and barrage damaged, destroyed. Awards and decorations included 3 distinguished unit citations, 99th Pursuant Squadron, May 30th to June 11th, 1943, for actions over Sicily. 99th Fighter Squadron, May 12th to the 14th, 1944, for successful airstrikes against Monte Cassino, Italy. The first 2 distinguished unit citations received by the 99th Fighter Squadron were awarded to the groups to which the squadron was attached. At the time, when a group received the honor, it was shared with the squadrons. They were assigned or attached to the group. 332nd Fighter Group and its 99th, 100th, and 301st Fighter Squadrons, March 24th, 1945, for bomber escort missions to Berlin, during which pilots of the 100 FS shot down 3 enemy Me-262 jets. The 302nd Fighter Squadron did not receive this award as it had been disbanded on March 6, 1945. At least 1 Silver Star, 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses to 95 airmen. Captain William A. Campbell was awarded twice. 14 Bronze Stars, 744 air medals, and check this one out, peoples. 8 Purple Hearts. Imagine that, Purple Heart. So thus far, everybody I spoke about on all this American heroes, soldiers, all received the Purple Heart. Wow, that's not something easy you get, you know. On March 24, 1945, during the war, the Chicago Defender said that no bomber escorted by the Tuskegee Airmen had ever been lost to enemy fire, under the headline, 332nd flies its 200th mission without a loss. The article was based on information supplied by the 15th Air Force. We got the whole crew here. Nelson and Carlos también. Let me know if you guys want to come on. Where am I at? So, post-war, let's talk about some post-war stuff here for these guys. Post-war, contrary to negative predictions from some quarters, Tuskegee Airmen were some of the best pilots in the U.S. Army Air Force due to a combination of pre-war experience and the personal drive of those accepted for training. Nonetheless, the Tuskegee Airmen continued to have to fight racism. Their combat record did much to quiet those directly involved with the group, but other units continued to harass these airmen. In 1949, the 332nd entered the annual U.S. Continental Gunnery Meet in Las Vegas. The competition included shooting aerial targets, shooting targets on the ground, and dropping bombs on targets. Flying the long-range Republic P-47N Thunderbolt, built for the long-range escort mission in the Pacific theater of the World War II. The 332nd Fighter Wing took first place in the conventional fighter class. The pilots were Captain Alva Temple, Lieutenants Harry Stewart Jr. and James Harvey III, and Halbert Alexander. Staff Sergeant Buford A. Johnson, from August 30th, 1927 to April 15th. Oh, that was when he passed and when he was born. Served as the pilot's aircraft crew chief. Lieutenant Harvey said, "We had a perfect score. 3 missions, 2 bombs were playing. We didn't guess at anything. We were good." They received congratulations from the governor of Ohio and Air Force commanders across the nation. After segregation in the military was ended in 1944, President Truman, with the Executive Order 9981, the veteran Tuskegee Airmen now found themselves in high demand throughout the newly formed United States Air Force. Some taught in civilian flight schools, such as the Black-owned Columbia Air Center in Maryland. May 11, 1949, Air Force Letter 35.3 was published, which mandated that Black airmen be screened for reassessment to formerly all white units according to qualifications. Let's see. Thank all who served. We used to. Let me know, Carlos Nelson. You guys want to come on? If they don't want to come on, anybody that wants to come on, let me know. Okay, Tuskegee Airmen were instrumental in post-war developments in aviation. Edward Gibbs was a civilian flight instructor in the U.S. Aviation Cadet Program at Tuskegee during his inception. He later became the founder of the Negro Airmen International, an association joined by many airmen. USAF General Daniel Chappie James, then lieutenant, was an instructor of the 99th Pursuit Squadron, later a fighter pilot in Europe. In 1975, he became the first Afro-American to reach the rank of four-star general. Post-war commander of the 99th Squadron, Marion Rogers, went on to work in communications for NORAD and as a program developer for the Apollo 13 project. In 2005, 7 Tuskegee Airmen, including Lieutenant Colonel Herbert Carter and Colonel James McGee, group historians Ted Johnson and Lieutenant Colonel Lee Archer, flew to Balad, Iraq to speak to active duty airmen serving in the current incarnation of the 332nd, which was reactivated as the 332nd Air Expeditionary Group in 1998 and made a part of the 332nd Air Expeditionary Wing. This group represents the linkage between the greatest generation of airmen and the latest generation of airmen, said Lieutenant General Walter Buchanan III, commander of the 9th Air Force and U.S. Central Command Air Forces. Let's see, Carlos Dumbro. We used to go through Aljo on our way to. Okay. So these guys were the real deal. George Bush in 2007, he gave the Congressional Gold Medal, as was collectively presented to approximately 300 Tuskegee Airmen or their widows in the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. That was cool. The Brigadier General Charles McGee being honored by President Trump at the 2020 State of the Union address. I seen that. I remember that. I watched that. His great grandson was there with him too. Yeah, I seen that. That was pretty cool. Let's see. Okay, I already talked about that. Thurgood Marshall, let's see, Thurgood Marshall, the future Supreme Court Justice, got his start defending Tuskegee bomber trainees. That's something cool. I wanted to talk about their, see if I can find it. These guys were straight up, you know what I mean, real deal, heroes, man. They completed a lot of missions with the least amount of damage. You know what I mean? And I think it was only right to speak about these guys next. You know what I mean? Because in my book, you know, they're straight up bad arsonists. You know what I'm saying? They did their thing, you know, and they did it well. You know what I'm saying? Michael Mormile, what's going on? Remember, Lou, George Bush Sr. was a bomber. Yeah, he was. George Bush Sr. was a bomber too. He was the head of the CIA. He was in the military. Like you said, he's got a hell of a resume. Yes, he does. But they say that you know, my grandfathers were in that generation. They both served. They say that's the greatest generation. You know what I'm saying? Anybody that's you know, that age group, World War II, I guess they would be. Let me see, my grandson born in 1924, so he would be what, 98 right now? He'd be 98 if he was alive. You know what I mean? I wish the best for all of us for what's going on in this world we're in, and try to stay safe. Enjoying some real information. Yeah, there's a that and he supposedly he killed somebody in another 4 or 5 or 6 in Stockton, and then there was a killing in the city that I'm in, and then there was another one a couple cities over, and so they're trying to tie them all together. They're saying to be everybody don't be nervous, and I guess he's targeting Latinos. Uh, if it's just catching people alone at night or what's going on with that, but you guys know I'm always looking around. I'm always aware on my, I'm always paying attention. Anyways, Nelson, what's up, OG? What's cracking, bro? Mad love to you from LA. No flies on my camarada. That's what's up. Just chilling. Yeah, and I was like I was saying, I went ahead and unsubscribe. What I mean by that, I'm talking like big channels, 50,000, 80,000 subs. I subbed to even some smaller channels. I unsubbed to. I was following a lot of wrestling channels and a lot of boxing channels, so I had to cut it down because I don't. They all talk about the same stuff. You know what I mean? Whatever's in the headlines, just like in the news. And then I had to unsub and resub to a lot of channels that I wasn't getting the notifications. And then since my work hours changed, man. So and then I got a lot of things going on. So then I'm trying to put lives, and the reason I've been doing more lives and no pre-records because I still haven't figured out how to do the thumbnails for the pre-records, and I figured out how to do them for the live. So I'm way behind on technology. You know what I mean? I want to figure out how to do an intro, outro still, and all that. I haven't got around to that because I don't even know how to use the computer. So, anyways, I unsubscribed and I subscribed because a lot of the channels either guys are coming on real late or just a few different things is keeping me from coming on or catching the shows. And so it is what it is. But I'm gonna go ahead and tap out on this one. I got another one I'm gonna start in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. It's on Dave Winfield and Kirby Puckett. I started doing the profiles. So far I've done baseball. The first one was George Brett, Don Mattingly, and Wade Boggs, and I'm gonna do this one on Dave Winfield and Kirby Puckett, and then I might switch it up to football. The next one is football season and basketball season starting again already. So I just had dinner delivered, so I'm gonna go ahead and eat a little something before I go back on. I appreciate all you guys for tapping in. You know what I mean? Because without subscribers, we wouldn't have no channel, that's for sure. So appreciate each and every one of you guys. And if you guys ain't busy, wait a minute. Jerry, I'm not from LA, bro. I done told you like 9, 10 times now. Jerry Gambuti, you need to put down that ganja because it's messing up your memory. I'm like 300 miles from LA. Something like that. Anyways, wow. Texas 49, Oklahoma 0. Wow. Who would expect that? You guys don't go to another channel or you guys ain't busy, come back in. Those that like baseball, and you guys can jump on. Anybody wants to ever jump on, just ask me for the link. And it is what it is. But I appreciate everybody for coming, stopping by. You know what I mean? Stay safe and be well, Lou. Habib got your back. Ciao, fratello. Oye, fratello. So, all right, peoples, thank you. Big Lou, tapping on out. Your favorite bean-eating mofo. Straight off the banana boat.